Double bind.
Double bind.
Double bind.
Double bind.
Double bind.
Past it, or you get tools to manage it, or whatever the case is. But I just think that you get to a certain age, you think you're gonna have this person, and you're gonna have this life, and then you realize that you don't, and then you realize that you could have had it. So you start with, anyway, I can go off on a tangent, but I won't. But
that's so healthy. I like that. That's really responsible.
Yeah, so
good advice.
What do you think, Zoe? Do you think that you are kind of responsible for your own loneliness in some ways as you get older in regards to age and the dating pool?
I mean, I'm in the middle of a pandemic, like a frigging lockdown. So you guys are all talking from the land of freedom. I'm literally like, the options at the moment are very, very limited. But I don't know, loneliness. No, I wouldn't say, I think I would say that I'm alone, but loneliness, I don't think is a word that really resonates with me. But I think you just get pickier, don't you? And you just have higher standards, and yeah.
I'm actually shaking my head in agreement.
I wouldn't necessarily say lonely. Why would you say lonely, Boogs?
Why would I say loneliness? I think, okay, so the conversations that we had last night, I was picking up on a sense of, I mean, they didn't outright say that they are lonely, but now I'm processing it the next day, what I heard, it does kind of seem like they now are feeling a sense of loneliness. Now I'm in Canada, so the lockdown is very much prevalent here, and it has been for the last 365 days. So I can see how that would play a factor in maybe how the vibe and the sense that they had delivered to the rest of us when we were having that conversation. And that's just a vibe that I think that they, or an emotion that I believe that they are feeling.
So it just kind of exacerbated it in some ways.
Yeah. So Zoe, you're in lockdown. So you don't have any peers or yourself, or there's never been an emotion that you felt. And it's like, I haven't felt this emotion before. I've been alone. So I know the difference between being alone and loneliness. And in the pandemic, you haven't felt, or no one's shared with you that they are feeling kind of lonely?
Yeah, I do have friends who are lonely, who are single, but they don't. I have kids, and I have 3 kids, so that I would love to feel lonely. I'd love to have some and quiet and some time to just goddamn think. I think for people who don't have kids, who want to have kids, lockdown has definitely felt like the doors are slowly closing and that window of opportunity is going, like especially for women in their late 30s and 40s. But for me, I think I quite enjoy my own company, and I've really loved having the excuse not to see people, not to have to make an excuse, be like, oh, I'm busy. I just can't go out, and I can't let you come around to my house. So that's been nice. But yeah, I do miss socializing, definitely. And dating during a pandemic is just not an option. That's kind of crazy. I did have a panic of let me go on a dating app. And I'm like, why? For what? But yeah, I wouldn't say that I feel lonely. But I think definitely as you get older, the situation changes, more people are married. And,
yeah. And then also your dating, I keep saying your dating pool gets smaller, because they said after 40, I forgot what the percentage was, but it dropped significantly simply because, as you said, most people are either partnered up and married, or obviously you lose the physical vibrancy of youth. And so, in terms of being able to get a partner just based off of looks alone.
Yourself, Neil.
Yeah. It doesn't, it's not quite the same. It's not quite the same. Snead, you've been quiet. I know you're probably still.
I mean, I can't really say anything about it, because, I happen to find love in a hopeless place during the pandemic. So it's like,
all right, Rihanna. So you're not in the same situation.
And to be honest with you, I wasn't even looking for it. So it's just it kind of happened. And I wonder, had it not been a pandemic, would I even be in this situation at all? But I would agree about the whole dating pool. It does get smaller, and your options do kind of lessen, and you have to make a decision of exactly what you're going to tolerate just to stay relevant in the dating game, if that's what you choose to do.
Right.
Dating is hard no matter what your age group is, because I have friends who are younger, and they seem to be struggling with dating and loneliness too. And like Zoe said, I don't understand it. Like all I need is a playlist and a bottle of wine and I'm fine.
Real quick before you continue, I just want to kind of touch on what you just said with younger people. I read somewhere online recently that younger people are almost suffering a similar type of loneliness to older generations only because of the fact there is a proliferation of apps and access to people. So what happens is people aren't as committed. There's so many options that people tend to bounce quickly. If something doesn't feel right, or if it's just, I'm bored, So in some ways, the younger people, I read this again, some younger people are actually in some ways, their loneliness is parallel to those who are older and who have a smaller dating pool based on age and generation. I thought that was interesting.
I can't even imagine what that's like to only know dating through apps. Because to me, the last time I was dating was 15 years ago when apps just weren't a thing. You'll just go to a bar, meet someone, have a vibe, and that's it. Mm-hmm. But the idea that everything's done through apps, that's just completely insane through me. Because how do you get a sense of who a person is? It's very, very, very strange to me.
Boogs, you're going to say something?
I've read something similar in that the generation, what would that be? Z, X, Y?
Yes. Well, we're X. Well, you're actually
I'm a millennial.
Totally.
Yeah, you're Y. You love saying that, don't you? You missed that shit by a year, so shut the fuck up. So what we're referring to would be Y and Z. Yeah, Y and Z.
Okay, so generation Y and Z, they have an innate, I guess it's more of and I'm paraphrasing, it's more of an innate mental health related issues that are directly inflicted by insecurity from using the apps and social media. So what I mean by that is the gratification that they're looking for with navigating through friendships and dating is an alert mechanism. And I guess the alert would be, a text from the guy or the girl that you're dating, that you're interested in. If there's not a constant response or reciprocation to your display of affection through sending a message. And if it's not reciprocal in nature, it then harbors or impacts your mental health and your well-being and how you feel about yourself. Hence those filters that they now have. And they're making young girls try to portray images online that are unnatural beauty standards. So filtering their face, their lips, their eyes, their breasts, their bodies. And that's the image that they put out. And, then the likes and the hit, it was equated to endorphins that you have in your brain when you're addicted to a drug. That endorphin will increase, and it's the same sentiment for when your picture is being liked. So Generation Y is constantly in that realm, in that spiral. It's a detriment to their mental health.
Which is sad, because I'm sure all of you have heard stories of people committing suicide or contemplating suicide, or crying on social media because they've lost followers or they're not getting enough likes. Yeah, in some ways that it is. I could see where that plays out. That's kind of sad. So good morning to you, if you're up.
Good morning. I'm up.
Oh, you're up. You sound up. I'm gonna just throw you right in. So
is everybody else up?
Yeah, everybody else is up. You're the late one. But real quick, let me just throw you in the conversation real quick. So do you think we're responsible for our own loneliness per se as we're getting older, and in context to a smaller dating pool, less partners, or also being kind of over the dynamics of, young love and that kind of freshness that comes with it? Do you think that we're kind of responsible for our own loneliness? Or
I think at a certain age in life, or especially at this age in life, we're responsible for a lot of our current circumstances, whether it be financial, residential, romantic, spiritual. These are so, right. Whatever, seeds you sowed or that didn't sow, they're either going to be reaping or not reaping right about now. So yes, we're absolutely all responsible for or romantic situation right now. Exactly. As a man in his early 40s, I'm definitely responsible with my romantic situation. And I can't imagine me not being, or anyone else at my age, not being responsible for their current situation.
Got you. Boogs. Anyway, we're going to have a longer conversation on this in another episode. But welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Double Bind. I am your host, Springle. Welcome back to the podcast. And this week I have Boogs, my co-host from Canada. I have Zoe rejoining me from London. Of course, Twaz has just chimed in, and I think he's in New York, right? Or Jersey.
I'm in Harlem, New York right now. Yes, I am on the East Coast. It's about 40 degrees right now, cold.
Is
wind
it?
chill hitting my...
Come
yes,
down to
nice
ATL.
It's
Going to be about 68. And then, of course, we have Snead
I'll be down there
from
next.
Jersey. And yeah. So our main topic today, of course, I'm a huge fan of music, like most of the people around me. And I personally have this idea in my head, and I'm hoping my panel will help me switch that around if needed, that music in itself, what I consider Black music, neo soul, R&B, house to some degree. I feel like a lot of the musical artists who are Black, who continue to do music that is essentially marketed to and for Black people, I feel like those people are being pushed to the background, whereas we're having non-Black or white artists come in and kind of take the same format, the same style, the same technique, the same sound, and still have much bigger and better success at their careers versus the soul artists or the Black artists that perform primarily, in my head, or create music that kind of speaks more to Black people. So does anyone here believe that there is a deliberate push to give what some people would consider Black music, but give it to them packaged in a white form? Or do you think it's just a natural progression of art in a global scale where people can appreciate music from different groups and actually be able to either replicate or embrace that and produce something similar to that? So I'll start with Snead, because Snead is the music aficionado outside of me, and he's much broader in terms of his palette. So Snead, what do you think?
I kind of thought about this subject a lot because I'm kind of torn. I have quite a few of those artists on my roster that I listen to frequently, and they are not people of color. They're not Black people, and it's difficult to stand on one side or the other. Is it an agenda? I don't know if it's an agenda per se, but I will say this: Black people are not supporting Black artists. The music business, it's an industry of business. So when there's no money that's being made, you have to filter it through something or someone. And unfortunately, it is other races that's, promoting and singing and making money and being successful at singing R&B music or a version of R&B. But I don't know. I don't know if I can stand firmly and say that it's a deliberate agenda or whatever. I don't know.
Well, it seems like it's a tricky question because what is layered is tricky because it's like, what do you mean by support? And what metrics are you using to gauge how much support one person is giving an artist over another? Because there's so many different ways to support an artist now besides just buying their album.
Boogs, what do you think?
Understand what I mean?
And I know Canada has a little bit of its own history with the Black R&B artists versus the pop artists.
As Gene's speaking, I'm thinking about it, and I'm wondering, like he mentioned, Black artists are not Black people are not supporting Black artists, and I'm wondering if that's true. Because I don't know any Black people who don't support Black artists, so I wonder where that. And I hear that sentiment being thrown around a lot, and I'm just wondering where that comes from. Is there any data to actually support that claim?
If you look at Black artists,
but Snead, before you continue, if you really think about it, some of the artists that get on are first put on by Black
artists.
artists.
I'm talking about as far as purchasing the music. as far as buying. Not,
so you're saying black people don't spend any money?
Not sharing a clip on your social media page or on Twitter or whatever. I'm talking about actually.
That's modern times, isn't that how people consume music? It's by sharing, and isn't that how it's done, or no?
I don't know. I think that's a tough one because I'm kind of wondering when has that not been the case? I mean, like if you think back to Elvis. Like if you think back to Elvis, like from day dot, they've been finding ways to plunder music and repackage it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or
so
Peggy
I
Lee.
can't say.
Or Peggy Lee. Like it's part of pop culture. Taking black music and putting on white face is part of the industry. Like the recording industry that's its origins. That's how it made its bread and butter, and that we could still reference it today. So this isn't a new thing.
So Snead, give us some examples of what you mean by support.
I'm sorry. I think a good example would be, Jasmine Sullivan. I mean, have we heard anything about her EP? Was it successful? I mean, she got a little bit of traction, but that's pretty much
she has a number one. She has a number one song on the R&B Billboard charts.
The R&B Billboard charts.
And I think that's your point. And I was thinking about this as Snead was talking the first time. If I think about Adele, and I think about Jasmine Sullivan, and I think about the machine that's behind Adele and the machine that's not behind Jasmine, I kind of go in my own head, Jasmine can kind of sing circles around Adele, but yet Adele is a powerhouse. Why is that?
Powerhouse.
Like I will ask myself.
Yeah, and if Adele had put out "Pick Up Your Feelings," the song would have been phenomenal, would have been record breaking, and it would have been number one everywhere. So I'm thinking about the machine that's behind these artists, and even if the support is there or not, how does the machine determine how much they're going to invest in one and not the other?
It's almost a catch-22 because the machine is feeding us to some degree. So I'm going to jump to Zoe really quickly. So Zoe, coincidentally, and don't laugh at me, I don't care what anyone says, I loved Eternal from back in the 90s. I'm going to use them.
Yes, I love Eternal too.
So hold on one second.
Stay.
That's serious. So to the point where my friend Jason, love him to death, rest in peace, he got me to meet Kelly. So YouTube, metrics in those related videos you watch. YouTube, I signed in, and I'm not making this up, 3 days ago. And someone did an update to Where Are They Now? Eternal. So I was like, nothing else to do. I watched it. And I remember in the interview what the girls were complaining about when they were younger with Louise in the group, the one white girl. They said they were refused to be put on certain magazine covers. One, because the American market was like, yeah, you got a white girl. We don't really know how to sell that. 3 black girls with 1 white girl. And then when Louise left, the British magazines were like, well, you're all black. We can't, you don't sell magazines. And yeah, that was the early 90s. But what I'm saying, I feel like that hasn't changed much. So from your viewpoint, in reference to like Adele, which is what, who Boogs mentioned, do you think that is still very much present in the UK market? Because I can name Keisha White. I can name, Beverly Knight. She has, she's had significant success. Again, I'm using some old British R&B artists here. But when you look at that group that, Damage, right? They've done R&B music, but it was very polished for almost a white audience. You know what I mean? So do you think any of that is still relevant today in the UK, or do you think you can think of similar examples?
To be honest, I said to you before, like I'm not massively into R&B and soul, so I can't speak too fully on that. But I do think, yeah, definitely. If you think, do you remember Joss Stone, who was absolutely atrocious?
One of my favorite artists.
Sorry, I thought she was really bad. But still, I thought she was horrible. But yet she got loads of support.
Hold on. Why do you think she's horrible?
I just hate her voice and I hate her songs.
Gotcha.
Those two small reasons. But yeah, for me, despite being like not great, she still got loads of support and was all over the place. So I think definitely having a white face helps. But one of the things I'm seeing in the UK is that while like pop and mainstream stuff definitely needs to have a white face, what the younger generation have done is literally just to create their own genres like grime. So you have people like Stormzy and others who are leading the way. And that is just unapologetically Black. Like there is zero way that a white guy could just go and rule that. So I think what we've done in the UK is just like create our own niches that are ours and that they can't take. And that's doing really well.
So are you familiar with, well, again, you don't really listen to the R&B kind of thing, but are you familiar with the artist Eni? I think she's Nigerian or Ghanaian Brit. And she has a song called Peng. And Peng was she's a singer, but she also raps dope. And she keeps the Cockney when she raps. And so her song Peng blew up when she did it on by herself and with another, I think, Ghanaian, Amaya Brave, that's her name. So she did the song Peng, the artist Eni. It blew up, 1.8 million views on YouTube. They decided to remix the song. They took Amaya Brave, off of the song, and then they added Georgia Smith. Now, anyone who's familiar with Georgia Smith will know she's half white, half Black. Yeah. And now, what's happened? The song belongs to Eni, but the remix featuring Georgia Smith, with all the posters I heard and all the sort of marketed material, it was kind of marketed now as Georgia Smith, and Peng, Georgia Smith remix, and then Eni's kind of like the afterthought. And Eni's a typical Black girl, dark skin. She looks like what I consider a regular Black girl with a long weave. That's it. You know what I mean? And this is to me, that's why when you were saying, Snead, you don't know if there's a deliberate, if it's a deliberate push to kind of whiten the face of Black music. You understand what I'm saying? So Eni right now with the Georgia Smith remix, she's now at 8.9 million views. So two very different sort of numbers based on the aesthetics. And again, the remix is kind of almost marketed as Georgia Smith's remix versus Eni's actual song. You know what I mean? So I just want to use that as an example. And this is a British artist again.
It's the formula that works, though, isn't it? Like if you think of Vanilla Ice, Eminem, like it works. They take something niche, they make it mass, and it makes money. Like ultimately, it's a business. And I think Black people, well, I don't know of any Black person who bought Vanilla Ice. But, it works. It's just about money making ultimately, don't you think? Not that it's an excuse, but
I think we bumped that one song because of the sample, and plus, I was a Bowie fan, so that's the only reason why
you bought it.
The Ice baby.
Confession is good for the soul.
I think we have to put some of the, I don't want to say blame, but yes, the blame on also the Black consumer, Neil. I recall maybe 2 months ago, I was sharing some flack from you guys not wanting to listen to Jasmine Sullivan's album because of the title.
Well, because you're Black, you're from Newark. What's up?
Let me finish my point. Sometimes we limit our own artists because we don't like what they want to do, or we don't like that they're doing that, or they're not doing true R&B no more. That we close the door and limit our own artists, and we wonder why they're not selling, or they're not doing well, or they don't got a new album. Because you already put her in a box that she shouldn't do that, and you don't want to listen to her album now. So I'm just saying a microcosm that let me finish. That conversation, a microcosm, I'm sure I've seen happen in different circles saying the same thing. One guy said he stopped listening to Jasmine Sullivan's album once the song "Sit on It" came on. I can't listen to the. I'm like, you stopped listening to the whole album because you didn't like because she said "Sit on It." Because you like
a lot of dudes don't like women talking about pussy and sex from a female perspective.
You stopped listening to her whole album because she said "sit on it." She didn't get like it was insinuating. It was a little risque, but just because of that, it's not like you skipped that song.
But doesn't that parallel? I'm gonna jump in real quick. So, for example, what's his name? Frank Ocean. A lot of straight dudes stop listening to his music because he's gay.
This quote unquote, well, to my point, Black, fan of Jasmine Sullivan, fan of Black R&B, fan of R&B music, stop listening to her whole album because that one song. So my only point being, you made my point, we limit ourselves because we're putting constraints on these artists that we think are so great and want to do so well, but we're limiting our own appreciation of them.
I think the issue with that Jasmine album,
because whatever moral restrictions or moral expectations we're placing on them, which is unfair, but that's how it is.
No, I would agree. I think he's right.
So that moral aspect that you're speaking of, so with the Jasmine album, as we discussed in the previous episode, was more about the lyrical content, the moral aspects of what you're creating and how it can affect your audience. And so for us, Snead and myself, we felt like that album was just hypersexualized, which has never been her lane.
I understand
and that was the issue. It wasn't so much. It wasn't. It isn't so much. I don't think. Let me finish my point. I don't think it's about putting an artist in a box. In that respect, in that regard,
you are.
That was more about
you're limiting the artist. You're limiting what it's okay for her to say and sing about. Because you're not used to her singing that.
Well, it's not. It's not so much that. On the audience. The argument back then was more about the bigger umbrella of the industry and what I call black pop music, where it's hypersexualized.
Yeah, I don't think it was just targeted to her. I think it was a much bigger and broader topic.
Yeah, she's the victim of that. So you take an issue with how blacks are representing themselves, and she's being affected by it. So I'm saying is we're wondering why our artists aren't going far enough or getting promoted by the industry is because your audiences, members of the audience, okay, you guys included, aren't listening to them, aren't supporting them, aren't pushing them, and we wonder why.
No. It's a double-edged sword. It's also as Boogs said, the industry. The producers and executives in the back, they're also feeding us.
They follow the numbers. So the numbers,
but they're also pushing. They're also pushing a certain. I think they're also pushing again, like the Pink Black Girls remix. Why is it that the Georgia Smith remix is bigger than being pushed as if it's Georgia's song?
I hear what you're saying, Twaz, and I somewhat agree, which is odd that I'm somewhat agreeing with you.
What are you agreeing with?
And what you're saying about the black audience limiting what the artistry of an artist can do. But Jasmine Sullivan, I think, would be a bad example for that equation that you're making because she's been around for a very long time.
So what makes her bad equation? What makes
a primarily black audience?
What makes her a bad example? If anything, that's the perfect example. She's an artist who has the pedigree. Let me finish. She's an artist, has the pedigree, has the talent, has the experience, and has the fans. So why is she outside of what we're talking about? She's a perfect example.
Why hasn't she blown in the last 15 years?
What do you mean? Why is she blown in the last 15 years? She's still around. She's still around, signed to a major record label, one of the biggest record labels, Sony. So she's still around. She's still pushing units some way, somehow.
Right. But people, the black community.
We had a conversation where you guys had issue with the title of her album.
Okay. Can I speak?
You had issue with it. I'm just letting you know that she's very relevant. That's a perfect example of what we're talking about. Any black artist can fit inside this rubric, and I can point out to you a way in which the black fans have limited them and pigeonholed them and stopped their success. And we wonder why the industry isn't promoting them. It's because of us.
And that only happened with the last album. She has how many?
3 or 4.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, she's got 4 albums in this EP.
So we didn't limit her. We didn't have any issues with the first 3. Okay. So to his point, we're limiting her and we're not supporting her right now. And that's why she's not blowing up, right? Because we're now saying we don't want to hear sit on it. So explain the first 3 or 4 albums when she wasn't saying that, when she wasn't hypersexualized.
Well, first of all, Jasmine Sullivan is on a major label. So there is she's around. She's part of the lexicon of R&B today. Okay, number 1. Number 2, she's not pushed as a pop artist. Okay, for several reasons. Okay, she's not pushed as a pop artist. She's pushed as an R&B soul artist. That's the lane she's pushed in and pigeonholed in. Why isn't she in pop? That's a whole other discussion. Okay, Jasmine Sullivan, as far as I know, has she had any number 1 albums on the Billboard hits? Has any of her albums been number 1? I'm not a Jasmine Sullivan fan.
Not on Billboard. She's been on the sub.
Has she had a number 1? Has she had a number 1 album? Okay, she hasn't had a number 1 album, right? Because she's not a pop artist, right? Okay, but she's a.
But let me ask you this before you continue. How is it a pop artist like Alicia Cara, the Italian Canadian girl who looks mixed, so she can sell to the black audience? How is it she can get played on black radio, but Jasmine can't get played on pop? And they're both on major labels.
Like I said, that's a whole other. Well, I guess it's part of your question.
That has nothing to do with the audience. We're not dictating that.
Most music,
we're not dictating that.
Music is driven by the audiences. Music is driven by the way the audience.
No, not completely.
The music industry is driven by the way audiences respond in quantity to the talent.
But audiences can be manipulated.
Of course, and so can artists. Everyone's being manipulated.
Yeah, and so exactly. And so what I'm saying is,
it's called Hotels, was to create controversy, to create interest, to create some provocativeness, so people can talk about her. Because otherwise, we would not be talking about her. And she knows that. And so the fact that you even the fact that you even had a comment and wanted to talk about it put her on my radar. Because it made now we're talking about her. She's buzzing right now.
Yeah, because I remember you said if she's doing this kind of ratchet shit, you'll check it out. I remember you told me that.
It's a crowded marketplace, and she's trying to get our attention. And she got my attention. I bet she got my attention a lot more efficiently than she would have if she would have said Jasmine's Soul Kitchen. In love. That would not have been fascinating or provocative. That wouldn't have interested me. She made something provocative to get our attention, to get our eyeballs. We all know sex sells. So the fact she hinted about shaking her ass made me want to take a look, and I'm sure many other people too. They are responding to the audiences in the crowded market. If you're ignoring that fact,
I'm not ignoring that, but what I'm saying is almost a catch-22. The audience is being manipulated by those in power. And I'm going to use one more example real quick. And again, taking it back to the UK, Zoe Alexandra Burke, she was the winner of the UK, was it The Voice or was it X Factor? I think X Factor. I think she's amazing. I love her nose also, but yeah. Are you familiar, Boogs, are you familiar with Alexandra Burke? She's of Jamaican parentage, British. She won UK X Factor years ago, but
yeah, I remember her. Yeah.
You're familiar with her.
So what's your point?
So there was an interview she did, right? So she's no longer on a major label, so her mouth isn't tied. She can speak freely. She said when she just won, they told her, you know what? Yeah, we're going to give you an album and we're going to give you a record deal, but you're going to sing this type of music. So she's more into what we consider true R&B and true soul. But she had to make it, again, I know your argument, Twaz, is going to be...
But this is... I'm going to have to stop you right now. Because you have to stop.
Let me finish. Let me finish. There's a second part to this.
You just said something that's very critical to what I'm saying.
Let me finish my second point.
You said pure...
No, because you haven't heard it yet. And I'm trying to... Let me finish my second point so you can hear why I'm indicating, why I'm saying the business is trying to indicate what the audience should want. So she said, this young lady who is a beautiful, dark-skinned black woman said they told her, we need you to straighten your hair, wear a longer weave, bleach your skin because you're not going to sell, or we can't push you because you're black. And this is not eternal early 90s. We're talking someone mid 2000s, a few years ago. You understand what I'm saying? So these are industry players telling her, and we already got a black girl. Which is the other one, the mixed one, or whatever her name is.
Leona Lewis.
Yeah, thank you. So what I'm saying is just, even though you're saying to me, I guess I'm just making this point to say to you, even though you're saying to me, it's the audience indicating what we consume. I don't think so. I do believe there is a drive.
It's not a didactic one-way street. It's an interplay. Sex symbols, Hollywood sex symbols, females. They're going to adjust to what's getting the most likes, what's getting the most play. Like it's an interplay. It's a back and forth.
You don't think. But listen to what I'm saying though. You don't think in terms of, it's kind of like representation in any regard in life. You don't think when we see enough of representation, like for example, Winnie Harlow, that model with vitiligo. You don't think because someone actually took the fucking chance to push her, or Alec Weck, another model from back in the days. Dude, a catch would not be around if it wasn't for Alec Weck. Exactly. Don't you think if the people who are the power players in the background, if they took the fucking chance to push the dark-skinned girls that look like a regular black girl into the fucking forefront, you don't think, or taking that sound that particular artist is having and not polishing it up for, to make them more palatable to a white audience. You don't think that in some ways, if you push these people to the forefront, it can also redefine what the audience will receive?
Of course it can. Yeah. Of course it can. Zoe, I don't.
You know what I mean? Someone has to take a fucking chance. I'm sorry, Zoe. I'm getting a little tight right here.
With regards to the music industry, even though we're seeing many artists on the ground who are black, the fact is that the senior management, the record heads, are primarily white. So the whole concept of taking a risk is something that they're not going to understand. They're just going to want to go down the same tried and tested route. And that unfortunately is the issue. Like, if you want to go mainstream, you're dealing with major labels and they have their standards, they have their figures, they have their metrics, and it's down to you as an artist to decide whether you want to fit in that or not. And I think that kind of extends beyond race. Like, I know the music industry quite well. Like, that's just how the cookie crumbles, unfortunately.
I hate that answer. That's how the cookie crumbles. We've got to shift that.
Yeah.
Or you don't be mainstream, or you're comfortable with being underground and having more autonomy. Like, that's what happens here. Like, people are independent and they make their own success, and then they can call the shots. But if you want to go down the mainstream route, then that's part of the game, unfortunately, for everyone.
And that's part of the rules you have to abide by, and the sacrifices and things that you have to make. Something is going to have to give if you want that route of success, or if you want that type of exposure.
Right. And we're all a little complacent in it. Even I was going to stop you earlier when you said she's singing pure R&B. Just this rule that you have of what pure R&B is, you understand, but certain people hold that to that classical definition of that genre so tight. And each genre, some people like true hip hop is this, true hop is that. Just as hard as you hold to that genre, that category, embedded in that is certain visual cues of what that person should look like. So as you start to just break free of even your hold of what this genre is supposed to sound like, that's part of the trap that they're in. You know what I mean? Like, the fact you like pure R&B is just this, that's also the sonic equivalent to this pop artist has to look like this.
The box.
You know what I mean? So it's like these boxes that we all create that we don't even know we're privy to and complacent in. So the fact you got this pure R&B sound, that's just as constricting as someone saying someone should look like this, to sell like this.
And so I think as an artist, sorry to interrupt. I think as an artist, you have as much of a duty to be a business person as well. Like, it's not just about this is my sound and this is only what, like, obviously bleaching your skin, that's a step too far. But I think if you want to play the game, then you just have to be flexible, unfortunately.
And that's why I mentioned that story with Alexander Burke, because look at the extent that they're trying to,
Yeah. Look at Michael Jackson, the biggest pop star in the world. So we're not.
Michael is a different kind of case. That man did not have a childhood.
He's not a different kind of case. He's the stamp example of what it takes of the pop to take over the pop industry or be a victim of it at the same time. So he's a perfect classic
I think he's a perfect case of someone who he delivered black music to white audiences.
Michael Jackson is totally relevant to the industry now. If you think he's irrelevant, then you're missing the whole point.
I never said that. I never said I would. I am quite clear when it comes to English. Yeah, I would never say that.
He just said Michael Jackson is a different case, and I said no.
No. Only in the sense
of the case.
Yeah, who said that? Nobody said that.
Some of these artists today. I never said he's irrelevant.
Different case.
Twaz is just throwing any kind of daggers at me.
I'm throwing big bricks at the wall and showing y'all that they do stick. They maybe seem a little heavy.
It's early. You're very passionate today.
They may seem a little heavy and sharp on the edges, but they do stick.
Why, my friend? Why?
You should sit on it. At the wall.
You guys are hilarious.
I said sit on it.
All right. So just to flip it, FYI, I think Snead is probably the greatest example of the widest palette of any person I know, because he'll be telling me about all these white artists, and I'm not, fully biased to, only black artists. And music is music. Great music is, should be embraced by everyone. However, I'd like to know from each of you, are there any specific white artists that you really appreciate? And if so, why? And who is that artist? So let's start with you, Boogs.
Adele.
Oh my God! Really, you couldn't give me something else? But why Adele though? What is it you love about Adele?
Yeah, if I'm sad, if I'm feeling some type of way, she will take me through my emotions after I just hit play on any song, and then I can wallow. I can be entrenched in my sadness for that moment that I need to get past and get through it, and then I turn her off and I'm fine. But if I really need to feel something to get past something, hit play on any song. 5 minutes, I can move on.
So she kind of helps you process your feelings.
Yeah, quickly.
Cool. That's nice. That's cool. Zoe, I know you said you don't do the R&B and soul as much. I know you like electronica. Any specific artists that you like, and why do you like them?
I mean, in terms of people that you'll know, I quite like Amy. I love Amy Winehouse, even though she's white. and she kind of crossed over into the black genre. I loved her because I think she just represented a moment. In terms of electronica, there's loads of like white French composers that I like Sébastien Tellier, because he speaks emotionally with the sound that I love. But yeah, I think for me, music is music. I'm not so bothered about the race element personally.
But Zoe, don't you feel like, because I listen to electronic music too, and I think that there are some artists who have like a R&B kind of element to the electronica music. Is electronica kind of, is it a broader like genre of music? Because usually when people hear electronica, it's just like kind of stuff like that. But I've heard some electronica where it's labeled electronica and it sounds like it's very bass heavy and huh?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I like the whole gamut of it, but I think there's definitely like Diplo, he's white, but he does like really dirty stuff with like mixing up ragga and techno beats. But yeah, it's wide. It's really, really wide, I think.
Snead, well, since you hopped in, I know you got a long ass list, right?
I do, and it's crazy too. But even though he's not, because I listen to like the alternative R&B stations on like Spotify and Apple Music, and that's kind of how I find my artist or whatever. Because I don't listen to the radio, I don't even bother. It's garbage and it's just repetitive, but. There was this guy that I found, his name was Omar Apollo. And let me tell you, like, I was just like blown away. And I automatically thought that he was a brother. I looked up, I was just like, okay, you're not. I mean, even though I think he's like Spanish or whatever, but it's just like, did y'all get a pass for this? I don't know. But my white artist is, Joseph, the guy that I put you on. Like, first of all, I love that sound of music, the retro. The retro soul.
Yeah, the Brits nail that. I gotta give it to them.
Anything that he puts out, it's just like I'm on it, and I do feel kind of bad because I kind of like, well, he'll jump to the top of the list over a few of my staple black artists, but he's just, I don't know, it's just something about that sound that I love. I just wish, I said, why can't we make some music like this? This is so dope, but.
And the thing is, we do make music like that, but the UK, you and I talked about this before. I think the UK and Europe in general is so much more broader and more open, and they're less about boxes and containing people within a certain label as the US industry is. Because you could have a white girl in the UK doing tribal music from Zimbabwe, and she can go platinum in the UK, versus here we'll be like, how do we sell that?
Yeah, we don't have black and white radio. We just have radio. Like there's some like urban stations, but for the most part, like there's just a real mishmash. Maybe you'll have more black artists played in the evening, but yeah, it's just a general mishmash for us.
And I appreciate that about the UK. Yeah, I'm in some ways I'm a little more jealous. So Twaz.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of UK artists, like more than American artists. The things that comes out of the UK just seems to me a lot more appealing than what I'm listening to on American radio. So.
Less formulaic and they're smarter.
Right. Garbage.
Yeah, I think because it's a melting pot. It's more of a melting pot. We don't have, without those boxes, people can kind of cross genres a bit more. So yeah, I think we rock.
Lucky you. Yeah. So Twaz, I know you talked about you did music when you were younger. Who give me a white artist that's one of your favorites.
Listen. My favorite white artist, okay, I will say, okay, don't laugh at me, or laugh, it's hilarious.
I've already started laughing.
No, my favorite white artist is Weird Al Yankovic. No, it's a joke. No, my favorite white artist is Paul McCartney, because he's made music with two of my favorite black artists of all time, hits with them, being Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder, and he's probably the only artist that I know who's sold out stadiums every decade in the past 5 decades since the 60s. So and he's in his 70s. I can't.
What is it about Paul that's so appealing for you?
He kind of like has been able to have a hit in every decade. And as far as like he's one of the most successful songwriters of all time and hasn't had a scandal. And I'm just looking like, damn, he hasn't had some scandal and he's had a lot of success.
He did. He had a... Zoe, help me with this. Didn't he cheat on his wife who had a wooden leg, or he got with a woman with a wooden leg or missing leg?
That was a scandal.
I'm sorry, help me out. Zoe, you know what I'm talking about, right? There was a couple years ago. There was something with marriage and divorce, and
maybe his second wife was hated by the press. I can't remember if he cheated on her.
That was
yes, Heather McCartney.
For 50 years.
Yeah.
That's
talking about Heather McCartney who had the wooden leg. Yeah.
As far as we know, shit, you know.
I respect that choice. Paul McCartney rocks. That's good taste. Twaz.
Yeah, I've met him in person. He's actually really, really, really cool. He's a dope human being. So
wait a minute, you met him in person?
Yes, I've met him in person.
We gotta talk after this. I want to hear that. We're gonna talk after this. I want to hear that.
I don't want him to have a scandal because I just had such a great, moment with him. So it was cheating. Who cares? Everybody cheats. No, everybody cheated on J-Lo. Right. Who cares? Right. We still love them both.
Exactly. Who cares? Oh my God! So I really want to hear that. I mean, I'm glad you're co-signing on my Paul McCartney fandom, but I think he's just a really cool guy.
I'm a Paul McCartney fan too, so I can't, Well,
who'd you choose for your favorite white artist then? Who'd you choose?
Well, my favorite white artist. I mean, that's my favorite white artist would probably be David Bowie, but we're talking about artists that we're listening to right now.
I mean, still, you can still listen to good music has no timeline.
David Bowie.
Yeah,
I love David Bowie. Good choice.
No. Make no mistake. But the question was, who am I listening to right now? Who is my favorite white artist? Was that your question?
But you can still listen to him right now. He's not. His music's not dead.
But it could still be David Bowie. Like again, good music has no timeline.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. But if we're talking about R&B music and the music of today, how in the world would I say I'm listening? David Bowie is my favorite artist for what's going on right now.
No. I said who's your favorite white artist. I didn't say who's your favorite white R&B artist. Unless I said that.
I thought that was that not the top? Okay, maybe.
I didn't say your favorite white artist.
My favorite. Let me clarify. My favorite all-time white artist would be David Bowie, but who is my favorite white artist right now?
R&B wise. Joseph. Gotcha, Joseph, the Scottish dude who sounds like a male Amy Winehouse. That's cool. I myself, despite what I say sometimes to you, Snead, actually do have a few artists that are not Black that I love. I'm going to mention one artist that a lot of people may not even know. His name is Xavier Naidoo, and he's from Germany. He's an Indo-German, actually. When I first heard this man, I heard the song first before I even saw what he looked like. And I saw the last name Naidoo. I was like, that's kind of Southeast Asian. And then I looked him up, and it turned out to be an Indo-German dude. Baritone voice, and he gave me, if you could mix Luther Vandross with James Blake, that's what he sounds like, which is a weird ass mixture.
That's a very weird mixture. What does that even sound like? You have to send me a song or something.
Yeah, it's just just soulful baritone. I love male voices who are masculine sounding. I think a lot of today's contemporary R&B male artists, they kind of sound soft in some ways. I like when men sing like men.
Soft and whiny.
He's definitely, I see you, Trey Songz. So Xavier Naidoo is probably one of my favorite non-Black artists, but I do love Maya Hawthorne. That's another one I'm going to introduce you to, Snead. I think you'll absolutely love him. Bon Iver. I like all the sad songs. Y'all know me. Ray LaMontagne. Yeba, of course, I like her. Natalie Williams, old British artist who does R&B, kills it. But let me just ask you guys really quickly. Bruno Mars, do we see him as an off-white doing R&B artist, or do we see him as a white artist doing pop music with R&B leanings?
He's an other artist who unfortunately has the task of pushing R&B music.
Yeah, and unfortunately, our Black artists can't do the same. That's what I think. Not because they don't want to, but because the record labels don't support them.
But they don't support that. Yeah, and they want, they think that there's a certain lane for young R&B male artists that it's just sex, party, drinking, and that works for everybody, every artist.
So Boogs, let me just throw in Canada here for a second. So I know Julie Black, Glenn Lewis, of course, Melanie Fiona, Tamia, Deborah Cox.
I didn't even know Melanie is from Canada. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. I love her. Where's she at?
Like you gonna pop up.
So is Canada's because I know the R&B market, obviously the population is smaller, so the market for true R&B artists, that box Twaz likes to tell me I lean too much on. It's smaller than the US, so obviously they have to come to the US to have much bigger success. But is it similar in terms of, is the radio segmented in Canada the way it might be in the US per se? Or is it kind of like in the UK where it's just good music is good music?
I mean, I have to be honest. I don't think I've listened to the radio in years.
Yeah.
But
in terms of what you see or might hear about, I guess, in terms of the artists that kind of pop up, local Canadian artists that pop up.
Local artists will pop up on my social media feed, and I will listen to them. But until they really hit mainstream, they're not popping up on all the streaming platforms and all the streaming apps. Unless I guess I need to go looking. But I'm very mainstream. I mean, the artist that I picked in terms of my white favorite artist is Adele. That should tell you a lot about how I listen to music that's being released today. And then, I'm very limited. So it's either Adele or 90s music. That's all I really listen to. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know what? And just to speak on Bruno Mars, I feel like, even though I love the song, don't get me wrong.
The song with Anderson .Paak?
Yeah, I love the song. I wonder if Anderson .Paak had just done it by himself.
It wouldn't be as big because Bruno's a big artist.
Would anybody care? Would anybody care? So music today is really, about, putting a name on a sound, really, to push it for numbers. I don't think the song would have gone anywhere. It wouldn't have got any traction if Bruno Mars.
Why do you think it would not have gone anywhere? Yes, I'm stoking the fire.
Because I don't think people would care. I don't think people would care for that particular kind of that sound, that groove that no one would give. Okay, yeah, it's cute. And they would just forget about it and be on to the next ratchet thing or the next, or whatever this damn song that's been number one on the Billboard for weeks. Driver's License. I don't even know
License.
Yeah, I don't even know who this girl is, but the song's been number one on Billboard for weeks, and it's garbage. And it's just like,
oh yeah, she's like she reminds me of what's that girl?
Olivia Rodrigo?
Like that kind of,
yes, that
it's very like that bedroom kind of Billie Eilish kind of pop kind of breathing.
And Billie Eilish is another one. It's just like, that to me, it's like, here we go again. You take a very urban sound, and I love it, but it's just like I look at it, it's just like, should I be loving it as much as I do though? Because it's just like, would this music go anywhere if Keisha down the block would do it?
I don't think Billie Eilish's sound, I wouldn't categorize as like straight R&B. I think her sound is pretty kind of like,
I mean, I didn't say it was straight R&B, but it definitely has some R&B hip hop elements to her music.
Oh, definitely. I would call it more alternative hip R&B.
Alternative hip R&B. You're doing too much right now. You're trying to throw pineapple, vanilla, chocolate all in the same cake. It's just too much.
But you know what?
Well, that's what. Have you seen Billie Eilish? That's what she is. She's a lot of things.
I'm not a fan of hers. I just know her name, but I'm not familiar with her music, to be honest.
I mean, her music is it's nice, but it's like I don't.
Is it similar to Lord's or nah?
I think it's better than Lord's, personally.
I think it's better than Lord's. I think it's better, but she's definitely part of that Lord pathos, if you will. She's definitely part of that train, or definitely Lord's, God niece, if you will.
You're about the same age. You can't be God niece.
I'm talking about as far as musical lineage wise.
Got you.
And and I also want to say, not to be racist, and I'm sorry if it offends anybody. It's
gonna offend somebody. You know how it is. The world
audience.
I'm offended already. You ain't even said it yet.
You mentioned something about pineapples, and something was brought to my attention about the K-pop and how and how the Koreans are, or Asians are integrating into R&B. I was listening to this group called Korean Soul who was singing background for BB Wines, and these people, I was just like, wow, we can't have nothing.
I mean, I don't see it as them taking it. I think, or taking it from us. I do see it as almost a admiration of what we do. But for me, the only time I'm triggered is when, what's the best way to put it? When they're lauded as if they're doing something new. But I also think that's linked to the novelty of seeing Asians sing soulfully, which we don't normally, unless they're Filipino, which the Filipinos have been doing that shit for years. But I think it's different when it's kind of pushed. And
you said an important thing, Neil. The novelty. A lot of this pop thing is novelty. Right. In many ways, what's her name? Amy Winehouse is novelty. Anytime a white person is singing in a voice that you don't keep thinking come out of them, it's novelty. True. Adele is novelty. Like a novelty is a big part of this whole. This isn't the music business; it's the entertainment business. So novelty is a big part of the game. So as long as they got white girls that can belt out like a black girl, she's gonna sell. That's just the way it goes. That's like as Joey said. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. Sorry.
I think in Amy Winehouse's defense, I did love her songwriting. But have you guys heard of Rosalia or Rosalia?
No.
Do you like
Rosalia? Rosalie, but as much as you like Amy Winehouse's songwriting, part of her look was she was like a white Billie or Jewish Billie Holiday. You know what I mean? That's part of the novelty. Definitely.
But Rosalia is like, that's a real mishmash of like flamenco with like the Travis Scott. And I think that really works. And is that appropriation? Is that novelty? Because even if it is, I still love it.
Not so much appropriate. Well, is it?
It's all appropriation.
Because we can think about reggaeton and how they, again, me no black, but they gravitate strongly to what we do. And that's another topic we'll get into. But
definitely appropriation.
You know what? I haven't heard, I don't know if I've heard Rosalia, but I actually like the other one. What's her name? Callie, how you UCH?
Yeah. She's like
she's Colombian.
Kali Uchimi.
She's Colombian.
Kali Uchi. Yeah. She's
I think that she would probably be in that same group with Rosalia, because I haven't heard all of her music, but from what I've heard, it's just like, oh, okay.
I'll be honest, she's the Latin SZA clone, the sing talking. I mean, great tones. And there's another one that kind of, I think she calls herself the something. I forgot what her name is. I can't remember. But to me, they're all kind of, doing what the black girls do and just having a little more success.
Black girls don't do flamenco.
No. Kali Uchi, I'm talking about. Okay, like SZA, the sing talking kind of. Yeah. Wait, don't say that. Some black girls do flamenco. One of my coworkers, she does samba and flamenco and all that stuff.
Karaoke nights. I'm sorry, yeah.
Thank you for tuning in. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and now Clubhouse, as well as all major streaming platforms. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. And we'd love to hear from you, so leave us a comment.